What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the shop. Today, I don't have a whole lot going on, to be brutally honest with you. We're kind of in a weird spot with a lot of the builds where there's not a whole lot going on other than just like smaller side work. So I figured today would be kind of a good time to take a step back and just go over what's going on at the shop, kind of give you guys a quick update, kind of where we're going, what we want to do with all the cars on the property. And if you can't tell, we've got a lot of them. I probably am gonna start with the truck. You guys saw last few videos ago, I wanna say, we were actually getting the floors finished up on the truck. We got the driver's side done. Passenger side was almost there. And then we kind of decided, hey, this is really repetitive. We're gonna skip, and well, we skipped. The floors are done. So we'll give you guys a quick little update on that. The Camaro, a few videos ago, we actually got that thing out on the road for the first time as well. Did a quick drive to the gas station and back. Some of that may have got skipped, but we also did a quick drive up and down the road. Things went really well with that. Of course, we ran into a few more issues down the road, some things that we need to kind of patch up and band-aid, but we'll get into that in a second. And then obviously you got things like Will's GS had with the relay box relocation. That's actually gotten a lot farther since the last video has come out. And then the Supra as well. You know, we drove that thing not too long ago. We did have a water pump blow up on that thing not too long ago, so we do need to take a quick step back and remedy that. But more parts have shown up, some good parts, some cool parts, some parts that will totally transform the way this car looks, but that is not the point of today's video. Today's video, I want to go over everything, car to car, just again, give you guys the what's up, what's going on. But for now, as you guys can see, Jake's already kind of hard at work just buttoning the rest of everything up on this. He's got some fender flap going on. But I'm excited to have our winter vlog car back. That's major. Having something that we can hoon around with in the winter is going to make a big difference in the amount of content that we're going to be able to put out, because let's face it, most of the things on here are not ideal cars to drive in the winter, but that is. So we will have a lot of fun with that. Outside of that, with Gina's Miata, the car that we just got done putting coilovers on, that was actually sent out to a body shop, I want to say about a week ago, right after we finished the video with the coilovers, to get obviously the body work done, all the rust taken care of, dents pulled out, and then we need to get rid of those cow spots. So that thing is getting a full paint job. It'll be all one color. It'll be super cool, super beautiful. I'm not going to spoil anything on it now, but just know that's coming. Without further ado, let's kind of jump into it. I want to touch base with Jake real quick. We'll move on from there. And honestly, with everything that we have going on, I don't even really know where to start with this. So I think we're just going to start with the first thing that we really started to go super into detail on in this channel. We're going to start with the Supra. Car started life as an NA Mark III Supra with a 7MGE. That was changed. We threw a GTE block in it. Starting from back to front, we've got a reinforced rear subframe. We've got an eBay fuel cell with some Dash 6 lines. We've got a one-piece drive shaft from Drift Motion. We've got a LSD in the rear, a factory Mark III Supra LSD. We've got a stock 7M GTE with a CT2658, they call it. Essentially, it's a bored out factory turbo that we had Drift Motion rework for us. They threw in their wheels, so it's a bit more efficient, makes a little bit more power. We've got Drift Motion shimmed oil pump. Outside of that, it is a completely stock long block with some triggers. We're on an ECU Masters Classic standalone, and there's some other few bits in there that I'm probably forgetting. Bosch 550cc injectors that we're going to change out for some ID 1050s, Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator, and again, some small bits. But so that's what's done to the car. Where we want to go with this thing is to move into the realm of suspension. So I have a set of Time Flexi coilovers upstairs that I want to install on this thing here pretty soon, along with a new set of wheels and tires. Agile Performance out of New Zealand makes an angle kit for this thing, along with a lot of the rear end suspension components that I need, like the lower control arms, the upper control arm, things like that are just worn and tired at this point, and I want to change it to have the ultimate driving experience. So suspension is where I want to go. The drivetrain, minus the water pump that I blew up the other day, is great. Everything is solid, so we're happy there. Once the suspension's done, we can move on to things like the cage, the bulkhead, some of the body work, and then we can knock this thing off the list and hopefully move on to something else while having some fun with this car. But that's pretty much it for the Supra. Super basic build. There's really nothing like way off the wall, minus like the digital dash or the standalone that like would set this car apart from anything else. But it's definitely come a long way from where it was when we got the car NA, and the whole basically had to pull it off of a tree and the front end was completely bent. Which it still kind of is, but that's neither here nor there. That'll come when we do the cage and the front tubular section. But yeah, that's it for the Supra. So the next thing on our list we're gonna take a little bit of a walk for. This is a car that we've been working on the last couple of months, getting an engine put in, getting moving, getting running. We've actually already driven it once, and that's gonna be our 3rd gen Camaro. So this thing has been a journey for the last few months. So as you guys saw, we had the car running and driving. Everything was good. The engine installation went good. Everything else was hunky-dory. But I had to open my mouth and say something about this being easy. And for the last month and a half, we've been fighting the transmission pan, trying to get it to seal, just trying to keep trans fluid in this thing. And we've got, I mean, you can see we've gone through a few pans, gaskets, all the trans fluid we got laying out over here. It's been a fight, to say the least. I mean, this pan has given us so much trouble, and maybe an OE pan with a Moroso seal is the answer. We're gonna keep playing around with something until we can find the answer to why can't we seal this transmission pan. It seems like every pan we get, either it's just a terrible casting or is like warped, not a flat surface. So before we even buy another one, we're gonna send the pan that we've got out to get planed and flattened out. We're gonna put it back on, see if we can't get everything to seal up good. Other than that, literally, it's an exhaust. Once the exhaust and the trans pan is done, this car should be road ready. We go out and start having some fun with it. Now, with it still having a 10 bolt in it and the factory trans, they're not the strongest things in the world and probably are not going to be too happy if you just try to beat the hell out of them right out of the gate. Oh, we'll make it work. It'll be fun to drive around for a little bit until we get like a 14 bolt or something put in there. It's something that will handle the power that this engine makes. But that's kind of where this thing is sitting at. I don't think there's any major plans right off the bat outside of the catback or the trans pan that we're gonna like immediately start throwing parts at this thing or anything. I mean, we got to break the engine in, got to make sure everything works. So it'll be a little bit before we really start having fun with this thing. But as Tanner said, the 501th mile is likely going to be a burnout. So stay tuned for that. Outside of that, that's gonna pretty much do it for this garage. So let's head back over there and we'll move on to the next car. Yeah, that one's been a heartbreak for sure. It's always tough when you like get to that point in the car where you should be done and it's just not. I know that way too well. Oh, and I suppose we could probably stop and talk about this thing for a second. This is it's some 1980 something Yamaha XS 1100 SX, something like that. Beautiful bike. This thing's a ton of fun. It's 1100 cc. I don't know much about bikes, to be honest, to be given that much of a rundown, but it's super cool. Probably not going to do very much to it, minus like deleting the fairing at a certain point, you know, just to give it kind of more of that naked look. But outside of that, this will be one you might just see in the background. But I think this thing is rad. So big props to Jake for getting his hands on this. Right behind that, we've got another Chrysler Conquest. And now this one, if you can't immediately tell, is a little lopsided. This was actually a parts car that we picked up recently that we're going to be cutting apart. I want to pull all the nice stuff off of this car, all the stuff that we can reuse. Kind of self-plug here, NowSheWorks.nicheparts.com. If you guys need used Conquest parts, you see anything off of this car that you might need for your build, give us a call. Give us an email, shoot me a message. Might be able to help. But that's either here nor there. We kind of got this car more or less for the wheels because Jake is kind of a crazy Conquest wheel guy. Not going to get built, just going to get cut in half. And the only part that we are going to be saving is from here to here to make a racing sim. Outside of that, the rest of the car will get tossed in the trash. And like I know I just like casually dropped racing sim, but we're going into detail on that later. I got some plans for that. Moving on outside of that, because I'd love to wait for Jake so we can talk about the Conquest, the GS. This has been William's project that he's been working on for the past few months as well. You guys have kind of seen this in the background. I haven't been focusing on this too much because William just kind of wanted to be left alone, give him his time to work on this thing, get it all built. But if you take a look, interior is back together. Don't mind the trim panel. The relocation is actually done and the car does run again. Everything is good. The only thing is now we need to pull the engine and trans out because this thing needs a clutch now. We actually went out and picked up a 6-puck sprung ACT clutch with their extreme pressure plate, and I believe he just has a resurfaced OEM flywheel. The clutch that we're running right now that's in the car is super cheap and is just not cutting it for the power that this thing is making. As you guys remember talking about this car makes somewhere in the ballpark of 500 wheel. I think it's like 490 something. This car is disgusting at the moment, so I apologize for all of this. It'll get pulled out and washed here soon. But another reason we are pulling this drivetrain out is this intake manifold, that turbocharger, and these injectors are going to get switched out for something a little better. Now, you guys saw a few videos ago, we have a forward-facing intake manifold that we got from eBay, I believe, that we ended up cutting the throttle body flange off of and crudely modifying to make fit with the factory relay box that we've now moved. Don't ask too many questions. We're gonna switch over to that thing once we get the new throttle body welded on. The throttle body just needs to sit over here so that we can move the charge piping from inside of our frame rail to this material here. We cut a hole in here and send the charge piping up through here and make it a bit of a better package. This is at a really odd bend, and the problem is you end up pushing in on this hose here, and it both restricts cooling flow, and we just go through hoses like crazy. So I'd like to remedy that, get that figured out. He's going to go with a bigger frame turbocharger. I don't want to spoil that at the moment, but it is bigger than the one that he's running right now. And then a set of 2050 cc injector, some major injector. This we are going to shoot for like 700 or 800 wheel. I have my qualms with that, with this being a stock bottom end, but we won't get into all that. So that's the goal with this thing. The nice part about doing this is these injectors and that turbo will find their way onto that thing pretty soon here. He was going to sell those injectors, so I figured I might as well buy them up, grab them. 2JZ and 7M injectors, funny enough, are the same injector when you're buying them from ID. It's the same part number, so they should swap right over. But that's pretty much it for this. Nothing major. This car sits on a set of BCs with otherwise stock suspension, and it's more than likely going to stay with that. Got a nice aggressive set of tires on it at the moment, but I do believe he is looking for a set of wheels for this car. If anybody knows a good wheel spec or wheel that fits this car, please leave it in the comments. I would love to give him some ideas. And honestly, since we're over here, I think it'd be fitting to move on to a car that's over here so I don't have to walk as much. We've got two cars that have very little screen time on this channel. This is going to be my 1991 Dodge Stealth twin turbo, and then over here we've got a car that's had even less time on our YouTube channel, and this is actually a 1984 Mazda RX-7. It's a 5-letter car, the GSL SE. I haven't really talked too much about the plans that I have with this car recently, I should say. Back when I had my last shop, we talked about this car a little bit. If you guys care to go back a few years in video, there is an entire video of me ripping this thing apart, pulling the rotary out of it. I actually ended up selling it to a kid with another FB and a Mark II Supra, and he was going to rotary swap his Supra, so I thought that was pretty cool. But this car has had so many different ideas thrown at it, so many different iterations of this car have been planned and gone through. I've actually had 3 different drivetrain setups that were supposed to get swapped into this thing that just never did. There was an LST56 setup. Before that, there was a small block 350, and I forget the trans that we were going to go with. And then most recently, we actually had a full thrust 4G63 out of a 95 Eagle Talon and a KM132 that we wanted to swap into this thing, but ended up deciding against that as well. Because if any of you guys know 4G63s at all, the full thrusts are not the most reliable things when you're shooting for big power. And that's the goal that I want with this car, is to try to make big power. We have Techno Toy Tuning's full 4-link and coilover conversion in the rear, along with their Panhard bar that's on the way. And front suspension is going to be the same thing. T3's front coilover conversion, along with their adjustable lower control arm, should make this thing pretty planted. As for a drivetrain setup, I don't know. If anybody has a good idea, leave it in the comments. I don't want to do the LS route. I don't have any real issues with doing LSs and RX-7s. I know Jake would probably hang me out to dry if I did, but it's not his car. But I don't want to do it just because I think it's not me. It's not my style of driving. It's not what I like. So I've kind of been leaning more towards the K series or B series, like a Honda setup, and just do it longitudinal. I don't know. I've seen a lot of guys do rear-wheel drive K-Series swaps recently, and they've been super rad. They make great power. They've got a great power band. You throw like a G25 housing on it, and it's a solid 500 horsepower setup. So that's more than likely what I'm going to end up going with, but things can change. I mean, this more than likely isn't going to get touched until both the Stealth and the Supra are long out of the picture. The only reason I'm not in a big hurry for it is just because I want to build, this is my dream car. You know, this is the car that I want to build perfectly, that I want exactly to my specifications and standards. So it'll be a little bit before we start messing with this thing. Obviously, I am a broke child, so I can't afford much. So building 2 cars is kind of out of the picture at the moment, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it when we do it. It'll be super cool. That's the story behind this car. For the most part, it kind of just sits and looks really cool and will eventually be something. But yeah, that's that, and this is the 91. So this was the car that you guys saw in the lift not too long ago. We were ripping the engine and transmission out of it so that we could do a rebuild. As you guys know, if you guys watched the video, we had a rod bearing spin, a rod or a main, I believe, spin in this engine. So it needs to be fully rebuilt. Coolers need to be bought, hoses need to be bought. A lot of things still needs to happen before we're ready to put this thing back together. But our plans are to get this car put back to essentially factory state. It has four-wheel steering, it's a twin turbo car, it's got the active exhaust, so it's got all the bells and whistles that you'd want out of a 91 Stealth, but it needs to have an engine rebuild. That's it, very simple. Don't want to spend a whole lot of time here. This car doesn't do much, we're not going to see much. It's going to get rebuilt and sold. Moving on. We have this thing. Now I want to say this is an 87. Could be wrong. This is another Ram 50, very similar to Jake's car that he's actually putting floors in right now. However, the exception is this is a short bed with a macro cab. It's a bit more of a rare setup for Ram 50s as far as you see them go. You don't see the macro cabs nearly as much as you'd see like a standard cab long bed like the red truck that we have here. This did have plans. We actually did get kind of far with this car. If you guys saw not too long ago, we have a turbo motor actually installed on this thing. It is still the factory 5-speed KM132 that would have otherwise came in this truck, but we've got a G54B with a turbocharger out of a Conquest. I think this motor actually was the motor that came out of the red car that we have sitting over there. So it is an unknown state engine. All we did was turned over the crank. We know it turns over, it's not seized, but we don't know if it actually runs. So that's what we're gonna find out here pretty soon. Outside of that, we had William make a custom engine harness for the Mega Squirt system that was going to be put in this truck. Progress has since unfortunately halted on this with a lot of the other things going on. So it's kind of to be seen what ends up happening with this thing. I'd like to finish it, but I don't know, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here. Which is sad because I love the macro cabs. I think the macro cabs are a beautiful looking version of the Ram 50, but with so much uncertainty surrounding the build, I don't know really where we're gonna go with that. So without further ado, let's move on to the next truck on our list, which is actually a new member of the Not a Shoeworks team. This is Mike's Ford F-250. We finally got a diesel, boys.
So, latest addition to the fleet is my wonderful 1996 Ford F-250 Power Stroke. This is powered by the famous 7.3 liter Power Stroke, followed by some crappy automatic that we don't care about that's not sticking around. So, for today, our goal is I need to put a charging whirler in this because it has a 4 amp draw. And I'm putting a starter in it as well because the starter is original to the truck. Yeah, it's been on the block for 230,000 miles and it's still being a Ford Motorcraft starter. I'm surprised it's working as well as it is. Otherwise, plans are it makes 200 factory horsepower and about 425 foot-pounds of torque. I want 1,000 foot-pounds. That's injectors, turbo, and exhaust, and putting a 5-speed in. It's a ZF5S47, which is the 96 and 97 5-speed you get in these. Oh, we're also putting 1-ton axles in it with a 3-inch lift kit eventually, whenever I can get rid of the IFS that this truck has up front that is worse somehow than the solid front axle. So it'll get a Dana 60 and a Sterling 10.5 compared to the 10.25 that's in it. And this thing will pretty much be bulletproof. It will only break when someone else drives it. I mean, hey, it's old and it's reliable.
Yeah, it'll get us to and from the track.
Yeah, after you break your car.
Hey man, it'll be all right.
So we don't have to use your Tahoe. Speaking
of Tahoes, the next thing we have on our list is a Tahoe. We have our 96 two-door Tahoe. This is a 350, nothing special to it. Heads, cam, intake, factory bottom end. Got a GM Performance intake manifold, GM Performance throttle body. Nothing super special. We had plans with eventually trying to turn this into kind of a pseudo tow rig for some of the smaller things around here, just moving things around the shop, you know, towing small things up to the track, moving parts around, buying engines. Now that we've got the F-250, it's almost kind of pointless to keep it around. We don't know what we want to do with it. I don't have a big plan with it, so for the time being, this will probably just sit in the background of the videos and not do a whole lot, but maybe one day we'll find something for it to do, find a project, find a build, find a style that we want to pursue to kind of build this truck up to. But for now, it just looks good and it's going to sit in the background, and that's what it's going to stay as. And next on our long list of shit, we've got Jake's cars. This beautiful blue Jewel right here. And since this is not my car, I'm gonna shut up and we're gonna let Jake talk about this one.
I blew it up. Well, yeah, I blew it up. I don't know what else to say about it. It's, she just puked all her oil, glitter and all, out the dipstick and caked the entire engine bay with it. Went to shift into third, hit the throttle and it went nothing. Well, anyways,
It's a no 54B.
it's a no 54B in here right now. The motor that was gonna go into that one over there is now going into this. And yeah, that way I have another Conquest to drive.
We have not done the tore down on the engine quite yet. We're gonna do that soon. Once I want to get this thing, we want to get this thing running before we do that. It's gonna be interesting to find out the point of failure though, because it wasn't knocking. Like Jake said,
No.
it wasn't knocking.
It wasn't knocking at all. However, there was an awful lot of glitter in there.
Oof.
I did have serious leak down on cylinder 3, but the compression across the board was pretty good as of, what was it, springtime that we did that. And yeah, so with the excessive leak down on cylinder 3, I'm gonna guess that I
I detonated a piston.
Yeah,
Oh,
decided
man.
to leave the chat.
Because this is balance shaft deleted, right?
I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, it could be that why there's so much glitter.
Yeah, because they'll fail and you don't even know.
Yep. Yeah, that's what kills these motors.
There's-
Always delete the balance shafts. First thing to get rid of.
Yeah,
Just-
balance shafts don't have a whole lot of load on them. So like when the bearings go, you tend to not hear them. I mean, they make some noise, but like if you're not listening for it, it's not
Yeah.
going to be like out of the ordinary.
And my oil pressure was fine. So
Yeah.
it makes me honestly think that cylinder 3 left the chat.
Yeah, which
Um,
we'll find out.
And we'll find out.
But like he was saying, we do have another motor for it
Yeah.
sitting by the next point of interest in this video. The Ram 50 we have spent the last 4 videos?
5, I
3 videos, 5 videos, somewhere in there, doing the floors on. And last time we left off, we were doing a video of the passenger side and we decided to stop because it was getting kind of repetitive. It's kind of the same thing for the right side that it was for the left side. But we're done. The truck is still in the air, but it's for your viewing pleasure, you bastards. Interior's back in, seats back in, we have sound deadening in it, floors are all buttoned up, and there's even undercoating on it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, because... Ow, that hurt. Anyways, Flex Seal works great. Went ahead and got it all buttoned up and thought to myself, you know, there's gonna be an awful lot of crevices here to pick up salt and road grime and snow. So yeah, just gooped it up and then sprayed some undercoat sealer on there as well, and just gonna ship it. Welded in pretty much the whole bit. I also decided to install an electric fuel pump because the one that's on the cylinder head is she toast.
She gone.
She gone. And now I actually have adequate fuel pressure, so this should actually have a little bit more oomph to it.
Yeah, we should. So, and the nicest thing is, and believe it or not, that most of this work was done so that heat would be retained in the car, and we can
Yep.
actually go do winter vlogs without acting as a pseudo snowplow.
Yes. Yeah.
When you're picking up the top quarter of snow you're driving over, literally, like this floor, like was just down.
Yeah.
So as we were driving, snow was just anything coming off the wheel, or this was dragging against, was getting sucked up into your boots.
Oh yeah. Oh, and you know, you could let it sit there and idle for 10 minutes and it would be super nice and toasty inside. And then the moment you start to move, it goes away.
Yeah, and don't get the wrong idea about this truck. We're not doing a video series on this because this is our best work, or this is not a She Works pinnacle. This is so that we have something to hone in the winter and that Jake can get to work.
Yep. And something that we don't feel bad doing it too.
And it's still a badass truck. It's a Ram 50.
Yeah, like, dude, G54B the world. I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely. Without getting too far off topic, the next thing that I think I want to cover today is actually in frame right now and sitting directly behind me. This is another project that we haven't really had much time to even talk about. I think this was on the channel once when we were changing the steering gearbox in the running, what was the running Conquest.
Yep.
This is
An 88.
an 88 Chrysler Conquest. This one is in significantly better condition than the other one. This one still retains the clear coat, doesn't have bacon fenders, and is pretty straight all in all.
A little bit of rust in the typical spots. They tend to rot out right there, but I don't really care because that's going to be nice and easy to hide.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this one we kind of decided to take a little bit of a step back on, let it sit, and this is kind of the same story with the RX-7, right? This is, you know, Jake's baby. Jake wants this done the way he wants it done, so this is kind of one of those things where we want to wait until we have what we want for it before we really just start. Not a car that's worth it to just throw together, right? Mm-hmm. It's got
Too
a lot,
nice.
way too nice for that.
I think this one is going to be more of a period correct modifications, you know, 16G with SAFC and a 1G MAF translator.
Yes, the way God intended a Chrysler Conquest to be built.
Yep.
Rad. It's so pretty basic, nothing crazy. That's kind of the story with this thing.
Just a little bit more oomph.
Just a little bit more, make it look nice, make it look good. And it'd be nice that we'll have two cars finally on the property once the Miata's done getting painted that actually have clear coat on them.
This one's got clear coat.
My GS has clear coat.
But it's
got scrolls.
Fuck you.
Assholes.
Well, anyways.
So the next car on the list, being our final car on the list, is actually the next car that I'm kind of hoping that we really jump into and start throwing stuff at, and that's going to be the red Ram 50 parked right outside. So this is actually one of my favorite builds on the property. As far as big power builds go on the property, like, I have to say I'm like hands down the most excited about this one. But Jake's got some pretty big things in the works for it, so I think I'll let him explain all that.
All right, Jake. So what the f do we have here?
We have here an 89 Ram 50 and factory 2.6 because G54B the world. As far as I'm aware, this one was also a 1-ton package like the one that's on the lift, ultra rare. That one on the lift came factory with 422s, which apparently didn't exist in the two-wheel drive trucks according to ram50.net. But I don't know if you can see this. This one's got factory 463s, which never was a thing here in the States. I guess it was kind of common overseas, but in the Mighty Maxes, L200s. But yeah, this one here, big turbo Conquest motor, 8-to-1 JE pistons, total seal rings, powder X-beam rods, port polished head, stainless steel valves, 4G race, adjustable cam gear, Force Performance HD 3582. It's a really nice quality turbo. Manifold built by me.
Shameless plug, Not Issue Works, nicheparts.com. You can pick up one of these G54B manifolds very soon.
Yep. Haven't really decided on what engine management I want to run. I have a EMS Pro V1 that I got for free $99. Probably just going to run that one. Definite speed density. I got to build a manifold for the intake as well, or I could just run that long runner Magna intake that I scored. However, if I were to go that route, probably going to have to go ahead and do a Yeetus Deletus on the power brakes. And yeah, that might be the move. Haven't quite decided yet.
What are your power goals?
Yes.
So on this build, this is one where we're like really going to try to find out the limitations of the G54B, pushed as far as it can go. I mean, the manifolds that we're making for it are to make as much boost, flow as much air as that cylinder head will allow us. In a perfect world, we'd like to see 4 figures. Some can argue that there's not enough flow to see that kind of power. Some will argue that you can. People have done it. Famously, there was an HKS twin cam head that was available for these engines that would make that a lot easier. However, there are only 4 of those in existence. And I want to say a few of them are in Puerto Rico, and some dude like
Two.
bought the patent for it and burned it, so you're never gonna get another one.
Yep.
So single
Lots of
overhead
plans.
cam head is what's gonna stay on this thing. But again, I mean, hopefully with the manifolds that we're making for it, we have an intake manifold idea. Maybe we're gonna run the Aussie style forward facing manifold. Maybe we're gonna make one, and to be seen there. But like I was saying at the beginning of this is gonna be the next big project that I would like to hop into. Hopefully, you know, we'll be able to circle back around to the RX-7 before the year's out, next year's out, but it's kind of a dream, pipe dream, if you will. But that's it. Those are the cars. That's what we got going on here. That's a quick update on every single build that we've got going on here on the property. Needless to say, there's a lot of work being done. And what I was kind of saying at the beginning of the video as well, we're kind of in a spot with a lot of these cars where it's tough to film, right? Like relay box relocation,
Who wants
water
to watch
pump,
that?
fuel pump. Like there's little things that just need to be done so that we can get everything ready for winter vlogs. Winter vlogs are coming up here pretty soon. Unfortunately, it's just super hard to film like big projects in the shop in the middle of winter. Minnesota gets pretty cold, and this is basically a tin box, so it doesn't get very hot. But we've got our winter vlogs vehicle back, and I'm super happy we're finally done with the floors. That was a grueling process to say the least, but it looks good. It's working good. I'm happy with it. But yeah, as far as what we got going on, that's gonna be it. So I think that's actually where we're gonna leave this video off. Thanks everybody for watching. If you made it this far in the video, I hope you guys are excited for what's to come. Another quick little plug, NanaShoeWorks.nicheparts.com. The link will be in the description of the video. We have a few different brands available, from fuel pumps to turbochargers. So if you need any parts, let us know. We've also got a few used parts for the Mark III Supers and Conquests, Ram 50s, things like that are always expanding. Like I said, we just got a parts car to add parts to that list. So let us know if you need anything. But with that, it's going to do it for the video. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see everybody next time.